you are probably going to find that that is the most difficult, challenging thing that you do as a Catholic man, is maintain the fact that your body is telling you one thing and the NFP chart or the church is telling you another. And I don't know that there's actually a good resolution to that, but it is going to be a tension that you as a man, as a Catholic man, are going to deal with. I will say I'm dealing with it 20-some years into my marriage, and I don't see an end in sight. So just be aware that is going to be one of the crosses that you carry in life as a Catholic man, trying to be a good Catholic man. And for your wife, for women, realize that this is going to be the most challenging thing that your husband carries. Welcome back, everyone. Craig here today. No Jonah. Another situation where I was out of town for work this past week. And actually, I'm recording this on Sunday afternoon, so a couple hours before it's going to release. And I didn't return to town until last evening, so we weren't able to record together. But I actually think it's somewhat providential because I had someone message me this morning. And they've been watching our videos. I think they're in the Discord as well. And he and his fiance are getting married in a week. And I believe maybe his wife to be may also be in our Discord community, which is really, really cool. And so he had asked me if I had any kind of last minute words of advice for him and his fiance as they get ready to get married. And I sat down and thought about it. I was like, I was like, I'm actually going to go record right now, so I will just do it in a video. So I sat down to kind of write out some of the things that I think are maybe the most important things that I've sort of realized over time. And I came up with 10 of them, and this is not exhaustive, and these are not necessarily in order of priority, and I will say that these are primarily from the standpoint of the man. So what I'm going to talk about today, I think will be most beneficial to husbands and men that are about to get married. But I believe this will help you be a better husband and man. So I just don't necessarily know that I'm in a position to really give guidance to women who are about to get married or who are married, other than to be aware of these things and to be aware of some of the struggles that your husband will have or does have. So, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So I wrote a list down here. Number one, and I think this, of all the things that if I could go back in time and tell myself things to do before I got married, this would be number one at the top of the list. Not necessarily because it's the most important. I think other things that I'll talk about are more important, but were already kind of intuitive to me. But this is the one I think would have made the biggest impact in our marriage if I had got to it right away. And that is to read I can never remember if it's the 4 or 5 love languages. I think it's the 5 love languages book. And if possible, have your fiance or spouse read that as well. I did not come across that book until within the last few years, and it really explained a lot of things that were just deeply frustrating for much of our marriage. So get your hands on that book and read it again. And if possible, have your spouse read it too. Men and women, just generally speaking, have different love languages. And what I'll tell you is, and the book kind of talks about this too, is there's that kind of in-love phase, that honeymoon phase of your marriage where you won't necessarily notice it because you're still kind of head over heels in love with each other. And it's not something that's going to become apparent right away, most likely. It may be months, it may be a year, maybe even more than a year when reality kind of sets in, and then you're like, oh crap, it's not as easy to just be in love and romantic with each other. So get your hands on the book, and like I said, it may not seem super obvious when you're initially married and you're able to enjoy that, but there will come a time, it will come, and be ready for it. So read the book and then have it available to read it again. So find the book and read it and keep it close at hand, because it's going to come in handy. Number 2 is this is one of those that I mentioned is important, but sort of intuitive, but easy to forget, and that is to pray for your spouse every single day. And I think this is something that I struggled with over time as we were dealing with things that were pretty painful, and there were times it was really hard to think in that sense for your spouse when you're kind of too busy kind of dwelling on your own aches and pains and what you feel like your hurts are. Pray for your spouse every day, especially when you kind of hate each other's guts. And there will come those times. It's going to be hard for you to imagine now, in the early part of your marriage, because you feel like, well, nothing could possibly ever come between us. It will. Life happens. And if you can muster the energy to pray and sincerely pray for your spouse's happiness, even in the midst of kind of those dark periods, that will help a ton. It has both spiritual and, I think, psychological benefits. So pray for your spouse and sincerely, and don't pray for them to change. Don't pray for them to become what you want them to be. Pray for them to be happy and holy. Pray for them to be happy and holy. And then whatever that means, let that happen. Like, ask God to make that happen. And then also to pray for yourself so that you can change and become the person that God wants you to be. There's a book, and I think it's Fireproof, and it's a movie too. I think it's got Kirk Cameron in it. Excellent book. It sort of goes along those lines. Excellent movie. It's along those lines as like finding the discipline to desire in a sincere way your spouse's goodness and happiness, even when you feel deeply hurt and maybe justified in feeling that way. So developing the ability to sincerely desire your spouse's happiness, even when you don't necessarily want that, I think is a huge, huge thing. So the sooner you can do that, the better. Number 2, pray for your spouse every single day. Number 3, and this is, again, these are not in any particular order, but these are kind of the order that they came to me. And this will kind of go along the lines of number 1 in terms of the different love languages, and also will depend on whether you, especially your wife, are more of is it active desire and responsive desire? Responsive desire. I can't remember what the other one is, which I am. Most men are going to be more of a active desire. And a lot of times, I think women are going to be responsive desire, and it kind of fits in with the love languages. Understand that, and understand that your wife, in a special way, is going to need that connection with you on an emotional and intellectual level, probably before physical intimacy can happen. Now, again, this may not be obvious to you when you're newly married in the honeymoon period, because that may not actually be the case. You're just going to be so excited to be able to, enjoy each other that way, that that all that passion that's been, you've been kind of keeping penned up over the course of your engagement is going to come out, and that's going to sustain you for a while. So this may not necessarily be true in the first weeks or even months of your marriage, but eventually it will, especially after you have kids. So one thing I want to emphasize is there's kind of two or three significant phases that are going to happen in your marriage. First, you're going to get married. You're going to be in the honeymoon phase, and that is going to end. And then you are, and maybe they're synonymous. When you get pregnant the first time, your life, your marriage is different after you become pregnant and have children, especially for your wife. And for us, that's kind of when the honeymoon phase ended, because we got pregnant right away and she was feeling pretty crappy during the pregnancy. And then when you have the baby, life is just forever different. All of the things that we talk about on the show, I think, are made more difficult, especially for men after you become parents. It's just, I'm sorry, just the way that it is. So number 3 is make sure that you take your time and have foreplay and connection before you sort of are planning to engage in any sort of physical intimacy. Now, that can be a challenge once you have children, because you may, if your experience is anything like mine, those babies don't stay sleeping very long, and they're like ticking time bombs. And so you kind of feel the urge to move things along, and sometimes you have to. But realize that your wife probably will need to develop an emotional connection with you prior to any physical intimacy. I think that, what do they say? Men seek sex to feel loved, and women tend to seek love to have sex, or something like that. You're going to be different. You're going to be different, and don't assume that your wife, your spouse, is going to have the same ongoing desire and drive for you the way that you do for her, especially after that initial honeymoon phase wears off and after you have children, assuming you're able to have children. So don't rush foreplay, don't skip it, make those connections beforehand. So that's number 3. Number 4, give your wife your attention. And this will all tie back to the love languages, but in my experience, how I feel loved is different than how my wife tends to feel loved. And one of the things that's really, really important to my wife is that she have an opportunity to talk to me and that I listen. And you have to be willing to listen without multitasking. Let her come home, or let her talk to you about her day, about what was going on, what she's thinking, what she's feeling, and put the phone down, leave the TV off. Don't be multitasking when she's doing that. I tried to do that for too long, and it was a cause of great frustration to my wife. So when she wants your attention, give her your undivided attention and listen, even if it may be about stuff that isn't especially important or interesting to you. Okay, so make that time. It will carry over into the rest of your relationship and will sort of make it easier for her to be interested in intimacy with you in other ways. So give her your attention. That's number 4. Number 5, and this sort of follows with number 4, is there's a very funny video. If you haven't seen it yet, it's the nail in the forehead video, and you have to go check that out because it's so funny. Probably more funny to guys than it is to most women. But when your spouse has something that's bothering them, she is going to want to share that with you, and what she's most likely not looking for is an answer or a solution or whatever. Mostly she just wants you to listen to her, to be attentive, and to let her kind of get that off her chest. And most of us guys by our nature want to try to fix, especially if they're hurting, and we see a solution or solutions. Our natural instinct is to want to protect our wives and to do good for them and to take away this thing that is bothering them. And sometimes we do and we have to, but oftentimes that's actually not what she wants right away. She wants to be able to unload this problem with you and to be heard. And that's going to take some time and skill. It's a skill that you're going to have to develop because it doesn't tend to come naturally for most of us guys. But just be mindful of that. And sometimes the frustration she has is you. You are the problem. And you have to kind of take that and not get defensive about it. That's something that was really, really hard for me a long time. I still struggle with that. When something is bothering her and it's because of something that I did or didn't do, it's natural to want to stand up for yourself or correct the record if you think she's in the wrong. You generally just have to kind of take that and not take it personal, because for a lot of women, this is part of how they work through these things that are bothering them. We tended to process struggles and obstacles differently. So keep that in mind. So number 5, listen, don't offer solutions. Actually, number 6 was going to be the don't get defensive. So I kind of lumped those together. But don't get defensive if she has words for you or criticism for you. And that is going to be really hard to do, because one of the things I have found is it's going to be normal for spouses to do things to each other that causes a lot of pain to the other. And it's going to be done without any knowledge or intent to hurt each other. There are going to be times, I think they're rare, where you might just do something just to be a real jerk, do something just real crappy to hurt your spouse. And when those happen, it is fairly natural afterwards to feel remorseful about that and to apologize and to whatever. But there's going to be a lot of time when it doesn't actually feel like you did anything wrong, and your motivations for doing what you did were actually completely sincere. And so you're going to face situations where you're going to be reprimanded and criticized for doing something that you were doing with the sincerest of intentions and a desire to actually help your spouse. And in fact, you will get chewed out because of it. I don't know why that is, but it's going to happen to you. And it is important to understand that these things just happen. It's part of the dynamic, and you have to not take it too personally if you can. So that's number 6. Number 7, this is something that we did not do for a long time because we started having kids right away and continue to have kids. But number 7 is have regular date nights and make time for your marriage, especially after you have kids. This isn't going to be too difficult for you when you're in the honeymoon phase and before you have kids. You're going to just enjoy doing things together all the time, and it's going to come natural. But it's going to start to wear off, and you're not even going to be aware that it's happening until it's happened and you're in conflict with each other. If you're anything like us, you'll have kids, and you'll be newly married. You probably don't have a ton of extra money, and you're kind of overwhelmed with the process of having kids, and you just kind of put your marriage on hold because you have this person now, this helpless person that depends on you for everything. And especially for mom, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be very demanding, and you'll get into survival mode. And part of the survival mode will often be just ignoring the marriage itself and your relationship with each other. And, going out on a date with a baby is not necessarily all that fun. Finding a sitter may be difficult, unaffordable, or mom can't relax enough to have someone else take care of your baby. But it's really, really important to find a way. And bring the baby along, bring the kids along, but make time for yourself and your marriage, because if you don't, all that capital you built up will erode over time, and by the time you realize that tank is kind of empty, and it can be really, really hard to get back on that path, because at this point one or both of you may be really angry at each other, and the last thing you want to do is go out for dinner with each other. So try to avoid that happening if you can, and make it a purpose, make it a priority, make it a bigger priority even than your children, to have that ongoing relationship with each other, and to go and do things romantically, like whether it's go out for dinner or something like that. And don't be afraid to go away for a night. My wife and I don't think we went anywhere without kids until we were married for more than 20 years, and we should have done that differently. So something to keep in mind. So number 7 is have regular date nights and make time for your marriage. Number 8 and 9. 8 is having kids is amazing, and it is one of the most amazing, profound things that you will do, and I hope you have the opportunity to have all of the children that you want to have. Having children is so cool. Being a dad, being a mom is so cool, and don't be afraid of it, but also don't be afraid don't feel guilted into having kids right away just because. This is my own personal feeling. Don't take this as any kind of moral, theological advice, but don't rush into having kids unless you're really ready to have kids. And I don't think there's anything wrong with taking the first part of your marriage, weeks, months, maybe even years, and get to know each other in this new relationship that you have with your spouse. Once you have kids, you will always have kids, and you will continue to have kids. I think don't feel guilty about giving yourself some time to enjoy this new marriage that you have. And then when you do decide to have kids, embrace the heck out of it, because it is really, really cool. It is such a wonderful, wonderful blessing, but it is a tremendous burden. It is. And just understand that, make yourself as prepared as you can. Get your marriage in as good a shape as you can before you venture into that, because nothing really prepares you for it, and it will bring immense trials and challenges to your marriage that you never actually thought could happen. Okay? All right, let's see. So that was number 8. Number 9 is NFP is going to be difficult, most likely. If you're reasonably fertile at all, and you're reasonably young at all, and you have to use NFP at all, it's going to be a challenge, and it's probably going to be it's going to be a challenge for you and your spouse in your marriage, but for different reasons. Probably the abstinence is going to be the worst part of the NFP to you as the husband. For your wife, there's a good chance that the hardest part of NFP is just becoming confident and trustworthy, and also finding herself more or less the de facto gatekeeper of the chart and your sort of decision on whether or not to engage at any point in time. Guard your wife's feelings with utmost respect, and understand that the fact that she may not necessarily be struggling with the abstinence doesn't mean that she doesn't love you, doesn't mean that she doesn't care about you. But pregnancy and child rearing is a huge, huge thing for your wife, especially if it happens when you weren't necessarily planning to. And so you're going to fight, and you're going to fail, and I failed at this, and I continue to do so, but you're going to get into that mopey puppy dog attitude when it's been a while, and, either, maybe the NFP chart is sort of ambiguous, and you're uncertain. Resist resist the urge to pressure your wife into doing something she doesn't want to do. And more importantly, don't take it personally if she says no. Make having children a very intentional, purposeful thing that you do together. You may accidentally get pregnant, but I think to the extent that you can, making babies something you do with complete and total unanimous desire and purpose and intent. One of the most challenging things you will have for your marriage is by getting pregnant when you weren't really planning to, especially if you're either pressuring your wife into doing things or she feels like she has to give in because you're kind of mopey and needy and crabby. Try not to put your wife in that position. Make the decision on whether to have children something you decide with very great purpose together, okay? But NFP is going to be a drag. If you're a reasonably healthy man, if you're a reasonably fertile man, and if you know, it's going to be a drag, and I tell you, the days during the abstinence periods drag on forever, especially as you try to, and probably maybe even more so as you try to follow these other rules that we are told to follow as Catholics. It is going to be probably the most difficult thing you do day in and day out, week in and week out, when you're in that situation where you're having to abstain for periods of time. And let me just be perfectly blunt with you. Abstinence isn't going to be limited to the NFP times. Abstinence is probably going to be imposed upon you because you have kids, or because you have responsibilities, or because your spouse just doesn't desire it as much as you do. You may feel like you're abstaining all the time because there's a decent chance that as you get into your marriage, you as a man are not going to be enjoying it as often as you would like. And it can be really challenging because what can happen is you feel like you're abstaining all the time anyway, even when you don't have to abstain for NFP reasons. And then when you're NFP, then it feels like, well, now I'm just abstaining even more. You may find that you're never in a situation where you don't feel like you're abstaining to some extent. Once you get past the initial honeymoon period, that's just the reality. I'm just not going to sugarcoat it for you. That's just kind of the way it is. And what's most difficult, I think, looking back is, and I want this to be something sort of, to give you kind of hope and courage. What's so ironic is when you're newly married, and let's say you guys kind of waited for marriage, you're going to be kind of bad at lovemaking. It's not going to be natural. It may be easy for the guy, but it's very easy for your wife to not necessarily be as automatic about it, and you may start to struggle with some things, and you quickly find out that it's not a mutually enjoyable, pleasurable event the way that it is in the movies. And unfortunately, you just kind of have to learn it the hard way, because there's no training manuals. In the movies you see are just not very, very indicative of how it is in real life. And so you have to kind of get through that. So what I would encourage you and your spouse is to give each other levity and grace and patience, and understand that it's going to take time to learn each other's bodies, to learn your bodies, but it does get better. And in fact, the older you get, the better it gets. Maybe not the frequency, but the quality, I think, gets better as you get older. And so, give yourself patience, and just accept the fact that when you're newly married and you kind of have, free reign of the house, so to speak, it may not be all that spectacular. And for some people, if you have things like vaginismus things, it can actually be really, really difficult and unpleasant. So, be patient, it will get better. It will get better. Even if you get out of the, you feel like you just fumbled right out of the gates. It's okay. You're not alone. It will get better as you get older. And so, and just be aware of that, and try to have an open line of communication with your spouse when you get into that, because it can feel like a huge dang letdown when you've kind of been waiting all this time and you get into it and you're like, and then it tends to not be that great for a while. Learn each other's bodies, be patient with each other, talk through things, and just realize that it can and will get better, hopefully, with time. And there are some other tips and tricks that I'm not going to talk about here, but always feel free to reach out to me. There are some things that can make it a lot better, and you're not going to find them mentioned in any kind of, I would say, any of the polite Catholic sources, but just stay in touch with me. I'll be happy to share those with you. So number 10, I think, and I didn't mean to save this one for last, but it's probably fitting that it is, and this is mostly for guys. If you have struggled with solo or porn at all before getting married, realize that marriage is not going to cure it. And in fact, is probably going to make it worse. And even if you get into a situation where you didn't struggle with any of that before you got married, you may find that it is something you struggle with after you get married. After you have your first child, let's say you don't have any of those issues, and then you get pregnant, you have your child, and you can continue to be intimate throughout the pregnancy. Once you have your first baby, you're going to be off limits from each other for at least 6 weeks. For a lot of people, it's longer. It's going to feel like an eternity, and there's a decent chance that if you've had any struggle with it in the past, you're going to struggle with it then. You're not alone. You won't be alone. But you may be alone in your marriage because it may be something that you struggle with as a man and your wife doesn't have any problems with at all. That is not unusual. And I wish I could tell you that there is some magic formula to all that, but I haven't figured it out yet. And just be aware that it happens. And here's what I will tell you: if you find yourself in a situation where you're struggling with a solo, and then you find yourself watching things that you shouldn't be watching, get rid of the videos first. Okay, tackle one problem at a time. Force yourself to not go looking at places you shouldn't be looking, and to the extent that you find yourself needing something for your imagination, make sure it's your wife. Now this is going to get me in trouble from all the haters or whatever, and I know this is not what you're supposed to say, but I'm just telling you, tackle one problem at a time, and realize that it's probably because you are a natural, healthy man and or woman. And what you have to understand is this, and this is something I think it's good for both spouses to hear. After you get through that initial honeymoon phase, the need that you each other have for full sexual intimacy is going to be different, especially after you have kids. It may not be unusual for your wife to feel like she can go indefinitely without it afterwards because of what childbirth and child rearing does to her. This is not a reflection of her love for you. It's just one of those things that happens, and it probably is going to take her a lot of effort to kind of rekindle and maintain that desire for you. Unfortunately for you as the guy, your body doesn't care about any of that. Your body doesn't care that you're in 2 weeks of abstinence period. Your body doesn't know or care that it's you have 6 weeks or more of abstinence because you just had a baby. All your body knows is that it wants that release, that what goes with that. and it probably wants it every few days. Maybe more often when you're younger, maybe a little less often as you get older, but every few days. And it's going to be extremely difficult for you to have a sexual relationship with your spouse at that kind of pace, especially it's impossible once you start using NFP, if you have to use NFP. And you're probably going to find that is the most difficult, challenging thing that you do as a Catholic man, is maintain the fact that your body is telling you one thing and the NFP chart or the church is telling you another. And I don't know that there's actually a good resolution to that. But it is going to be a tension that you as a man, as a Catholic man, are going to deal with. I will say I'm dealing with it 20 some years into my marriage, and I don't see an end in sight. So just be aware that is going to be one of the crosses that you carry in life as a Catholic man, trying to be a good Catholic man. And for your wife, for women, realize that this is going to be the most challenging thing that your husband carries, especially if he's trying to take his faith seriously and he's trying to avoid some of these things. It is going to be very difficult for him to, let's say, go 2 weeks or more without it, and to not be kind of a grumpy asshole to you. Sorry for the language. And also not slip into one or more of these other things that tend to be a real problem for Catholic men. It is going to take a great deal of effort for you as a man, and for your husband, if you're a woman, to do all those things. And I think for the most part, most guys are just not able to do that. And it can and will cause you a lot of strain in your marriage. And if you're anything like me, it may lead you to create a podcast at some point in time. Now, it's not all dark, okay? There is tremendous opportunities for healing in there, especially if you're able to talk about it with your spouse. For me, it was something that I kind of just struggled quietly myself for many, many years, unbeknownst to my wife. And that was a mistake on my part. And when we did start talking about it, it wasn't easy, and it was very, quite frankly, uncomfortable for a while. But it is a reality that you need to be aware of for yourself and for your husband. If you're the wife, understand that this will be the most difficult thing you do. It won't be going to work every day. It won't be doing dishes and laundry. It won't be changing diapers and staying up with sick kids at night. Those are all going to be challenging, but they're nothing compared to this tension that you're going to have in your life, and it never really goes away. It never really goes away. But understand that doesn't make you abnormal. And I would say if you don't experience that, there's something, you are unusual, not necessarily wrong, but you are in the small minority, because most of us guys, this is the hardest thing that we do each and every day. And so those are my things. Those are my 10 things. I would not go back to being a newlywed again, unless I could take with me all the knowledge that I have and the growth that my wife and I have been able to achieve. Like, if we could go back in time with all that new information, all that information and knowledge, it would be fun to be a newlywed again. I'm not going to lie, but that's not possible. And so I will tell you, it does get better with time, and I am having more fun and enjoying my marriage, enjoying my wife in the big picture things now than we ever did, even though NFP makes certain parts of our intimate life difficult. But so it does get better with time. It is worth it. Kids are wonderful. And it's going to be a journey, and it's going to have its ups and downs. and just understand that there will be challenges, but they will get better, and your marriage will, if you're working together and you can communicate about it and you pray for each other and you forgive each other and you forgive yourself, it's actually pretty cool, and I highly recommend it. And I'm excited for you as you enter this chapter in your life. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So those are the 10 things. I hope you find that helpful. I hope, and if you're newly married or you've been married a while, I think you're going to find some of that stuff is helpful to you. If you catch this video and you have any questions or any follow-up, just go down to the description and send us a message. unchartedcatholicman@gmail.com is the easiest way. We get a lot of spam, so if you send me an email and I don't respond, send me another one. It's not that I ignore you. Sometimes it gets missed because of all the spam, and it may be a couple days or so before you hear from me. If you're interested in joining our Discord community, if any of this resonates with you, especially, I would love to have as many wives in our Discord community as we can. But if you'd like to join our Discord community, again, send us an email. Just indicate that you'd like to be in the Discord community. If you can, just tell me a little bit about yourself, just so that I can vet that you're a real person and that you're, not coming into the group to make trouble. I don't think people are going to do that, but we've had a few difficulties along the way. Most of the people that want to be in the Discord community are terrific people, and the community continues to be one of the most enjoyable parts of my life right now, outside of my marriage and family. So if you'd like to be in our Discord community, especially if you're, even if you're not married, if you're a priest, we would love to have you in the Discord community, where we really talk freely. And I would say we're the only place on the internet where Catholics can freely talk to each other without having your comments blocked or deleted or called names, which seems to be pretty typical of every other avenue, every other platform out there. We don't do that. So if you'd like to join our Discord community, just send me an email and do so. And here's one thing I'll tell you, just because I try to remind people when they ask me, is if you'd like to join our Discord community, create a Discord account and use a fake name, a fictitious name. If you do email me personally, a lot of you do from a personal email, I don't share that with anyone else. I'll usually share the messages with Jonah, but I don't. Your identity, your information is confidential. But if you do join the Discord community, just create a fake name in avatars so you can speak freely however you want. If you don't have to do that, but if you want, go ahead and do that. And then when you get into the Discord community, when you first come in, you may not see a lot right away, because we just have to wait for a moderator to add your access. If you get in, if I send you a link and you get in, don't panic if you don't really see much. It's usually within a few hours, at least, that someone is in there. I see it, and I'll let you in. And then you can kind of see and engage with those of us that are there. Would love to have that community grow, and it's a great blessing to me, and I think it will be for a lot of other people that are in the same situation. I should be back next week with Jonah. We should be kind of on a regular schedule again. I don't have any major work trips planned for the next number of months. So hopefully we'll get back onto a regular schedule after this. So I hope you found that helpful and useful. Let us know in the comments. And till next time, everyone. Have a good one.